Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Last month when I went thrifting with my friend Terry in Comox, BC, I happened upon a wedding dress that I just thought was the prettiest thing, and I thought it had a lot of potential. Now, my friend Martina had just messaged me on Instagram showing me this trend where women were shortening their wedding dresses and making it into an anniversary dress, which I just thought was fantastic. Like, why not get more use out of your wedding dress? Martina was my very first subscriber, and you might recognize her from The Amazing Race Canada, and I think she and her family were on Family Feud. She's a very unique individual, and I love her to pieces. So when she told me about this trend, I thought, okay, I need to look into that and maybe do a video on it. So then when I was thrifting with Terry, I happened upon this wedding dress, which I just fell in love with. So let me just show you a clip from when I was trying it on in the store with Terry. It's just so pretty. I'm not getting married though, so what I would do would be to shorten it and then dye it. What do you think, Terry?
Perfect. Although I do like the ivory.
The ivory's so pretty, but it looks like a wedding dress, do you think?
Well, no. Once you shorten it, you're going to shorten it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to shorten it.
Yeah.
And it's too tight over the waist, so I'm going to have to let out these darts. But
it's really cute.
But the top, like the little flowery band, it can close, right?
Yep.
So I won't have to alter this part. I just have to alter the darts.
Perfect.
You like it?
I do so.
Okay, good. I'm going to try.
Awesome.
So I had all along the intention of dyeing it a different color because I thought I would get more use out of it if it looked less like a wedding dress or even an anniversary dress. So I actually bought 2 different shades of blue dye and I was going to give that a go. But then I went to see Barbie, and so of course I have to dye it pink. People are having Barbie parties and stores are having Barbie luncheons and people are getting dressed up as Barbie to go watch the movie. It's just too perfect not to make it a Barbie dress. So I bought pink dye. Now, these ones are specific to synthetic fabrics. The dress is polyester, so that's perfect. But when I went to find pink, so many of the pinks are sold out. And I think it's because of Barbie. So this one is not specifically for synthetics. It says it will make a lighter shade on a polyester. Well, it actually says a lighter shade on poly cotton, which this is full on polyester, so I don't know. A lighter shade than this would be fine though. I'd be happy with that. I'm just gonna give it a try and see how it goes. So I will be shortening it, but I'm gonna dye it first because I want to use the bottom layer to make a ruffle. So even though I'm shortening it, I still want all of the fabric dyed. The other thing I need to do, as I said in that little clip, is to release these darts. Now the darts go right up into that neck detail, so I'll just release them up until the bust point, and same on the back. And I think I better do that before I dye it, otherwise the darts will take the dye unevenly, right? So that's gonna be my first step, is to seam rip the darts, and then I'm gonna be putting this into a big vat of pink dye, and we'll see how it turns out. So if that sounds good to you, let's get busy. I opened up the darts to within a couple inches of that neck treatment and on the back as well, and of course on the lining as well. And then I tried it on and it's going to fit. It'll need a bit of shaping once I get to that point. The other thing I did, don't be mad, but I took off 23 buttons all down the back. I thought they really do make it look like a wedding dress. It just didn't have the right vibe for Barbie. So those are all gone. Okay, I have no idea how these flowers are going to dye. They might end up staying white, although they are satin, so they might come out pink. I really don't know. The pearls, I think for sure will stay white, which might be really pretty. Okay, so now just before I dye this now, I want to press those darts open because I think it would take the dye differently as it's so creased there. Wouldn't that be amazing if the bride saw this video? She must live on Vancouver Island because that's where I bought this, in the thrift store there. Anyway, I hope she's happily married. Okay, I think this is ready to be dyed now. I'm a little scared. And then I did chicken out about using that dye that was not specifically for synthetic fabrics, because once I read further down it said not suitable for pure polyester. So, okay, so I ran back to the fabric store, different fabric store, And then this time, yes, I finally found the pink dye that's specifically for synthetic fabrics. But it said for pure polyester, use double the amount. So this dye is getting expensive. This is now my, what, 4th and 5th bottles that I bought. So hopefully this goes well. I've got this giant pot of water on the stove because it has to be almost boiling water to dye synthetics. So the instructions on the bottle are so teeny that I had to take a picture of it and enlarge it. And then I wasn't even sure. It says 180 to 212 degrees. I'm Canadian. This manufacturer is American. I don't know if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius, so I had to Google temperatures for synthetic dyes, and it says almost boiling. I have to maintain that almost boil for the whole duration of the dyeing process. Get it wet before I put it into the pot. Okay. I've got my meat thermometer in there, and it's at 46 degrees Celsius. So I need it to come up to about 90 degrees Celsius, so almost boiling. We're coming up to 80 degrees, and I think I'm just gonna go for it. So I'll get the dye in. Okay, here it goes. So it's not a powder, so I don't have to let it all dissolve, right? Wow. Can you see that color? Ooh. The flowers seem to be taking the dye. I'll keep poking around at it and I'll check back in with you in 30 minutes. I reached 30 minutes, so managed to transfer it to a bowl. It was like moving an octopus. And now I'm got it into the kitchen sink where I gotta rinse until the rinse water runs clear. The color is beautiful, but I don't think it came out even. I think it almost looks a bit tie-dyed, but hopefully it's in the lower part where I'm gonna be doing that ruffle. Fingers are still crossed that this is gonna work out.
Oh my God.
Hi. You wanna say hi to the camera?
Are you filming yourself?
Yeah.
Or filming yourself washing dishes?
No, I'm not washing dishes. I'm dyeing a dress.
We're gonna be on the...
Yeah, just say hi. You want the kitchen. So the dye did not come out even at all. I just hope that the splotches are in decent areas. I don't know at this point if this is even gonna work. I'm gonna go find a place to hang this up and let it dry overnight, and I'll see you tomorrow. So look at this color. It's so pretty. Like, I know my darts are still funny. I'm gonna fix that. The color is so pretty, and I would be extremely happy this morning if the color was even, and it's not at all. Look, oh, it's got splooshes all over it. It looks like I spilled my salad dressing all over my dress. It's just not okay. If the color was even, I'd be on easy street right now. I was just gonna cut off the length, take what I cut off, make a ruffle, done. This is no longer a quick fix. This, to me, is just going to basically be my Halloween costume, I think. Me and all the other Barbies. I debated about cutting the dress off just under the bust, making like a high waist seam, pulling up the bottom to try and avoid all of those splotches. And was just about to cut, and then I remembered, of course, the zipper. That's a whole nightmare I just don't want to get into. So you know what? I think I'm just gonna proceed with plan A. And I don't know, maybe a viewer will tell me how I can get rid of those splooshes of color. I'm not gonna redo the zipper on the back of the dress. For me, it's just not worth it, right? This is a Halloween costume, and I don't think I'm gonna let it bother me. But if you wanted to do something like this, like for a real event, like to actually wear this dress out in polite society, then maybe a bigger vat would have helped my dyeing to become more even. Or I believe in some cities there are still places you can go to have things professionally dyed. Or maybe you just leave it white as an anniversary dress. So I'm just gonna put all my eggs in the basket of how I'm gonna shorten this. I think that part will be really cute, and my Barbie will look like she just got a little bit messy with her salad dressing. Some weeks it's not easy. Proceeding with plan A. Before I even dyed it, I did this very messy sketch. From the fold of hem, I want to cut off 26 inches, And then I'll divide that part into two 8-inch ruffles. So I've got my 2-inch ruler where the fold of the hem was, plus my 24-inch ruler, and I'm just going to cut right there. So for two 8-inch ruffles, I'm going to need 8 inches plus seam allowance. I'll cut it 9. I'll do a skinny hem on the bottom and have enough for seam allowance there. So 9 inches, 2 strips that I will sew together to be one longer ruffle. And I am glad I marked the waist with soap instead of wax. Soap will wash off nicely or even just flake off, where the wax would leave a stain on a polyester like this. I have this left. Maybe I could make a big flower to put on my stomach to hide those stains. Oh, Lordy. To make this ruffle, I think I have enough fabric to not worry about the seam allowance here, so I'm just going to cut right beside that seam of the slit. So these will get joined together to make a lovely ruffle. That's all good. So now I guess I have to do the fitting on the bodice. So to fit the bodice as is, I put the dress back on and pin the front darts back again, not as tight as they were before, but just skimming over the body on the front and back. Look how nice that dye came out. Like the flowers came out perfect. Even the little pearls really took the dye. So that part's all beautiful. Anyway, these darts, okay. I think what I shall do is just put a line of pins at the sewing line on both sides. You can see the sewing line from the original darts. So that's another reason why this is perhaps best kept as a costume. Okay. Then I'll be able to see those from the inside. And then on the inside, I can just replace those pins with dots from my friction pen. Okay, then the pins have to come out. That's the point. And I kind of want to just have a crisp fold going from one end of that dart to the other. And then if I put my pin through one of the marks there, and then make it come out the mark on the other side. So I'll transfer all of those darts to the inside like this. I will see about the lining. I'm not at all convinced yet that I need to even replace the darts on the lining. We shall see. Now up here I need to make a curve up for the bust line. I need to just make sure that's a flattering curve, and then it comes in a bit and comes back out. Okay, to the machine. Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to get right up in here and make sure I don't end up with a pucker. Overlap with the original stitching. And then just sew pin to pin. And the last few stitches will be right along the fold. And I do like to finish darts with a tiny back tack. Good. That should be nice. Alrighty, next. The back darts are a little less curvy in and out around the bust. They just go skinny, wide, skinny. Long, skinny taper in and back out. I'll try that on, make sure I'm happy. See if the lining needs to be done at all. Maybe the lining's just fine. Okay, so now it's time for the ruffle. I've got the two 9-inch strips. I'm ready to join them together. So I'm not going to change my serger over to pink thread just for this little ruffle. And so I'm just going to sew and then zigzag my edges. I'm just going to run to the iron and press those seams flat. Okay. And now I'm going to turn just a tiny hem on the bottom edge of this ruffle. So to turn that little hem, I'm just going to start with a small fold, turn once, and turn a second time. Get that under my needle and do a little back tack. Oops, I'm still in a zigzag. Whoops. Okay, then I just organize the next section. And because it's a straight piece, it really becomes quite easy. I just turn it and pull it taut. So I don't spend any time pinning or measuring on a hem like this. Turn twice, pull it taut, and go. I'm making sure that I sew along the top edge of that little hem, not down near the bottom. If you sew at the bottom, two bad things will happen. One, the hem can still fall back down, and two, it'll really start to ripple and bend and look funny. So sewing at the top edge here is really important. If this ruffle was a curved piece, it wouldn't be nearly so easy to do, but a straight section like this, a small hem like this, is pretty straightforward. A good match on your bobbin thread is important here because that's the thread that's going to show, of course. There's the little hem. That's just fine, right? That'll be good. Okay, and that's nice and fast and easy. Okay, so now let's gather the top edge of this ruffle. So I've got my long stitch length here. I started at one side seam and I will go to the other side seam and then stop and start again. So there's my other side seam. Long tails of thread, no back tacks. And then start again at that side seam. Do you know what? For years, I've been doing just a single row of gathering thread. Never felt the need to do that second row that I was taught. It just didn't seem worth bothering about. But then recently, I got a comment from a viewer who said, "No, Catherine, it really is better. You should try it again." So I will. I'm going to do a double row of gathering stitch. Okay, that's the gathering stitch. So we'll see if 2 rows is better than 1. Okay, now before I start putting this to the dress, I want to quarter mark it. So I'm putting the 2 side seams together and making a little notch at the center front and a little notch at the center back. And then I also need to quarter mark the dress. It already has seams at the center back and side seams. So all I need is a little notch at the center front. Side seams are at the sides. And I'm just going to flip this to bring my 2 center front notches together. The side seam of the dress to the side seam that I made on the ruffle. I'll pin it around at all 4 matching points first. Center back to center back. So now it's pinned around in 4 even sections, and so that shows me how much I need to pull up these gathering threads. So I'm going to take both threads together and not pull the threads, kind of just hold the threads in place and shuffle the fabric along. On that big seam allowance where the fabric is thicker, you have to kind of go a little slowly, encourage it along. Good, and then once it's the right length, then I just can tie my 2 threads together, just like you're tying a shoe, except a double knot. And then the thread won't be able to slide out of those gathers. And then I can slide the gathers around until it looks nice and even. And you know what? I do like the 2 lines of gathering. It is better. And then lots of pins. Make sure edges stay together. Everything stays nice and even. And those gathers are evenly distributed. And then on the other end, I'll grab those same 2 threads and shuffle the fabric along back toward the center. So just make sure it's all even. And now I'm just going to sew all the way around. And I do like the double line of gathers. I think it does keep the gathers more vertical. I think it's good. Okay, and I'll try sewing right in between the lines of the gathering stitches. And I'll have the gathered side facing up as I go around so that I can really see those little gathers and make sure they are staying nice and vertical and nice and even. I don't like to sew over pins because my machine is computerized. You can sew over pins with it if you have an older machine that's not computerized, but I don't like to do that because this needle is going to land where it's going to land, and I definitely will bend and break my needle if I sew over pins. So I just pull them out as I get to them, and I can use them to kind of push around the gathers. That looks so pretty. So now that one gathering thread that shows, I can just pull that one out. It's done its job. And it pulls out easily, so not a problem. Okay, that'll do. So now I just have two edges to finish off. This edge and the bottom of the lining. So I'll use a zigzag here. And then the bottom of the lining. It would have been smart if I had cut this a little extra long, because right now when I do a little hem, it's going to be shorter than the ruffle. So I do wish I had cut an extra inch here. And so I'm not going to turn a little fold. I'm just going to zigzag that. So this is not fine work, right? If I was doing fine work on this, I definitely would have left an extra inch on the lining and then turned up a little hem. But since this is squarely in the costume category, I'm just going to zigzag the edge of this lining. And that, my friends, means that I am done. Okay, let's see how this all looks. Okay, I have to say I fell back in love with this dress. It's just so divine, isn't it? It's so pretty. And yes, I am disappointed in the dye job. What can you do? But the fit is lovely. I love the ruffle. It's so fun. I do feel like Barbie. I think it's going to make a dynamite Halloween costume. But if you were looking to do an anniversary dress instead of a Barbie dress, then you wouldn't go through all the dyeing. And then I think that way of shortening it with the ruffle is really, really pretty. And the ruffle, that was the easy part of today's video, right? That was no problem. But you know what I would do if I had a chance to do that dyeing process again, is I would take some fake pearl earrings and put them in the dye bath as well. And then I'd have like the perfect matching pink pearl earrings. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Oh, but you know what I did do is I took another viewer's suggestion from a couple videos ago, took the extra fabric and made a cute scrunchie. That has a bit of a Barbie feel to it as well. So I think I'm all set early this year for Halloween. Usually I'm struggling to put something together the days before Halloween, but I'm pretty much all set. Pink shoes. I need some pink shoes. Maybe I'll make some bows out of the scrap to put on whatever shoes I find. Okay, that'll be good. So I hope you love the dress, and I hope you can forgive me for the bad dye job. And I do appreciate you being along for the ride today. It was lovely to have you along with me. And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.